Well, here's something else to all that. Okay, there's a team approach to working with active addiction. Active addiction is exhausting to deal with an addict. One-on-one, they will wear you out. Addiction is very manipulative. Addiction is very cunning, baffling, and powerful. But there is a way to approach somebody who has an addiction problem or is struggling with addiction as a team. And when they keep hearing the same message and you've done the same thing as a group, it changes the dynamics dramatically. People who call me aren't calling me because their loved one's looking to go to treatment. I'm being called because they know their loved one needs to get help, and they're relying on me to help them figure out how to get them there. And there are methods that work, and we can get them the treatment, but we really do need a unified group to do this. And when everybody's saying the same thing, you're closing off those enabling factors. The family's coming from a place of health and recovery, and you're in the solution. So there's a lot that people don't really know. I mean, they've gotten them there 1 through 10, but however they got them there, I don't know if maybe they didn't use an interventionist, or if they did, the interventionist wasn't committed to staying with them throughout the entire process. I mean, it's really important that you work with the right people. I got to tell you, and I give Dana a lot of props because having worked with Dana, I know Dana has always been committed to not just getting the person, dealing with the charges, but what drove that person to get those charges. And then we've got, Dana and I have gotten a lot of his clients into treatment, and they have done really, really well because it was done as a unified approach, and we did it as, wanting to really make sure that this thing stuck and it worked. What are we going to do to make that work? And
you're right. You said one big word, which is frustrating. Alcoholics and addicts are frustrating. I don't really, that is, they're people, and I heard somebody say this years ago, addicts, alcoholics are the only people that they have like 10 minutes sober and they have a fatal illness, but their first question they ask is, how long do I have to do this for? Can I go on a date tonight? And that's how if you're an alcoholic. If you're about to die and you're worrying about your dating issues, and it's very frustrating, and it's hard. It's hard to deal with people that are willing to die.
Now, which is why sometimes the criminal justice system actually can be a huge plus for this situation, because you can use the coercion of a judge and the criminal justice system to get somebody to that next step, to commit. And get them into a rehab, and then hopefully at that point they see the light.
And hopefully it takes. And the thing is, it doesn't always take, right? It is a progression of takes.
Well, it's a chronic illness.
Right,
even if it takes, there's still, you have to watch out. I think, like Carmine was saying, is that it takes more than just the addict. It takes a family. It takes watching out for relapses. Relapses happen even to the best of people that are following a program of sobriety the best that they can. Relapses can happen, and one of the things that we talk about at KLEAN a lot, and I talk about when I'm working with clients, is that
that's KLEAN with a K.
is that if a relapse happens, it's not the end of the world. The question is, how quickly can you stop the negative effects of the relapse? How can you get people back into treatment? Not setting people up to go out and start using again and again for a longer and longer period of time.
Andrew, what is your rule if somebody relapses while in rehab?
Electric chair.
Are they kicked out, or are they brought back in?
Honestly, we do a very sort of individualized treatment program, so it really depends on the client. And the type of use and what happened. I tend not to think of anything in such black and white terms, like oh, we caught you using, that's the end of the world. It really depends on what the did they do a lot? What did they do? Did they just cheek some meds and hold on to them? There's a lot of gray areas, and I think traditionally treatment centers have been sort of set up under that Minnesota AA 12-step model. And we're trying to look at it more as the underlying medical issues, as well as the social models that go on top. So, and then we have some clients that are there that are on diversion, so they don't have a choice. If they use, they're out of diversion, and so they're gone. But generally, we work with people.
Well, how do you punish somebody that's willing to die? That's, I think, where the major.
There still is a coercive element, I think, to all treatment. I mean, even within KLEAN, which is a very, it's people there by their own choice. They can leave at any time. People aren't locked down. So but we still have a level system. So we use some behavioral interventions, and you have to work up your way up through 3 levels of care to be able to get more and more access to doing things. So if you get caught using somehow, that very rarely happens, but if someone was caught using, they would go down to level 1 and they would be on a 1-to-1 watch. So, but if people are multiple times are manipulative and there's a lack of willingness to actually engage in treatment, and you can tell they don't really want to be there, we're going to discharge them.
Because they also are going to be affecting other people.
Right. They're endangering others.
There's something called a patient milieu.
That's why this whole thing is so hard, and not just with treatment, is because alcoholics and drug addicts are affecting people. Mm-hmm. So there's such a thin line between trying to be very loving and having to worry about it. It's no different than if you have a family and you have 6 young kids, and one of the sons comes out of treatment. You have to worry about the whole family. You have to worry about all the people that alcoholics...
Treatment also has gotten a lot more difficult than it was a few years ago. We have so many more substances that are available, readily available. And prescription drugs are out there. They've complicated the landscape immensely.
What's up with that spice? What is that?
That's just some herb that gets you high. I mean, there's one every 3rd week that comes out. But the real issues are... we have psychopharmacology that's flooded the market with a lot of drugs. You have clients that have multiple doctors getting multiple scripts. We're trying to tighten that down a little bit. But still, a lot of things we're seeing are not necessarily the same types of addiction you used to see 10, 20 years ago. We rarely see just a straight alcoholic. I mean, I think I've seen maybe 2 in the last year.
And me.
And yeah, right. Most of our clients have polysubstance abuse, and then they have also secondary psychiatric illnesses, either anxiety problems or depression, or even major mood disorders. So we're seeing the sort of medical intensity of services go up dramatically, and especially now that we have things like crystal meth, where you get drug-induced psychosis. And other, and it happens so much faster. Alcohol, it generally takes a while for people to become a heavy chronic user. Sometimes years. Crystal meth, 6 months. It's 6 months, and you're right there at the bottom. And so I've seen people go longer, but for a lot of people, it's a very short period of time. So the whole landscape of who comes into treatment, what they're addicted to, the pattern of their addiction, it's all different, and it's all coming at us in different ways. So it's much more of a difficult field than it was even just a few years back.
I'm curious because I primarily deal with west side of Los Angeles, which is certainly a socioeconomically higher level of clientele, so to speak. But have you noticed that there's a huge connection between ADD kids who've been on Adderall, mm-hmm. and then once they graduate school, then graduate to polysubstance abuse?
Well, it's easier for people to get prescription drugs than it is to get alcohol, as adolescents. So I certainly think, and there was a study that just came out, I don't have it with me, I had it with me last week, that showed that 1 out of 5 adolescents currently are abusing prescription drugs.
And that's a huge point by Dr. Drew, too, is that most, you become, you're taking Adderall for 12 years.
Right.
That's a long time.
The long-term effects of Adderall are yet to be determined, and there certainly seems to be a trend in our society where we've been medicating a lot of behavioral problems for a while in schools. At the same point, I'm not one to say I disagree with all of that. I think that psychopharmacology is largely good, and it's done a lot more positive things than it has done harm. What I think has done harm is the profession itself of psychiatry has become sort of burdened by the reimbursement structures and government regulation into only seeing clients for very short periods of time and then trying to fix everything with a pill. And it's the economic forces that have driven the profession that way more than treatment protocol. So we're in a society that's driven by, economic incentives instead of health incentives.
But in fact, though, most psychiatrists in trying to treat people with medication also require a therapist be in the loop as well.
True,
but most therapists don't take insurance anymore. You know, I mean, try finding in Beverly Hills, try finding a therapist or a psychiatrist that really takes health insurance.
I mean, there's a lot of doctor shopping, and you know, people want a pill. People want the quick fix, and you know, it's like antibiotics. Why are antibiotics overprescribed?
Because they work.
Well, no, but people have a virus, and if you have a cold, an antibiotic isn't going to do anything for you. And a doctor will write you the script because, you know, they think you got your money's worth for going to the doctor.
Right.
So we're going to take another break.
The number here is?
At 877-8.
Oh, man, 877.
It's your number. It's your job.
877-8-830-830. That's 877-8-830-830. Happy Easter. Happy Passover. Give us a call.
We'll be right back on KLEAN Radio.